Banished and alone, sent to fix up a planet as punishment. A crime I didn't commit. Survive and terraform this random planet until it has a breathable atmosphere. Stick around and see how I get on. Today, I played 100 days of the Planet Crafter and the mission was simple. It all began inside my tiny shuttle. Had a quick look around and noticed a crafting machine, as well as a storage container that had some food, water, oxygen tanks and a plant seed. I turned to a terminal to find a message stating that I had to terraform the planet and reach 175,000 terraforming index as my first mission. I immediately set out and started to gather resources that were laying around. Luckily, I had a really handy tool to help. What's that? Mystery container? I grabbed what I could fit. Turns out I only had a certain amount of oxygen and our landing pod would replenish it as we needed. Whilst back inside, I looked at what could be crafted and went ahead and got an increased oxygen tank. This would allow us to stay out a little longer. I also went ahead and crafted a construction chip. With 2 pieces of iron in hand, I got me a backpack. Next up, a torch. Things had started off really well. We kept up with initial farming and noticed some simple tasks we needed to complete. A living compartment, a door, a tier 1 drill, a wind turbine, and a screen for terraformation progress. I got straight to work. Found a nice little spot just up from where we landed and built our first awful cube and a door. At my new base, I went and got my own crafting station here. After fiddling around, I got myself something called a veggie tube tier 1. I found a little spot for it and then realised I had to add that seed. Look at that! Our very first power source. Back at the pod, I loaded my backpack up and made for the new base. And look at that, the seed went in. This was the start of it all. The next task was to find a place to put down our very first drill. This would start to produce a very small amount of pressure. As you can now see, the terraformation index slowly began to increase. Now, our own storage crate. And another. After farming a little, I offloaded and decided to build the terraformation screen. This thing was really quite cool. It showed me exactly what was helping grow the terraformation index. Then I crafted a little desk for some screens. A crafting screen and a power utility screen. Look at my lovely little desk. The crafting screen showed a whole list of unlockables. And the power screen showed what is consuming and what is producing. Whilst I was out farming a bunch of materials, I stumbled across a weird cave opening that had a strange feeling about it. As I entered, there was a new substance called iridium and some aluminium. To make sure I could explore properly, I came up with the idea of placing a little base over here so I could replenish oxygen and spend more time looking around. Whilst I was heading back home, I couldn't believe how amazing the moons for this planet were. Over at our little base, it was time to consider a little bit more of a foundation for a real base. So that's exactly what I got to work on. I carefully placed the first and second compartment and a door. And would you look at that, our very first heaters. Although power consumption was now too high. I took to gathering some resources to remedy the issue. And there we go. Oh, glorious power. Alright, time for a tier 2 oxygen tank, I think. The adventure in me needs it. Whilst out farming, we had unlocked a blueprint for the next tier backpack. Let's get another drill. And that tier 2 backpack. Space baby. We also slammed in some more turbines and a bunch of drills. With more materials in hand, I continued to expand the base piece by piece, turning a small box into a bigger one. I even put in a lovely window. It's time to get some storage down again and some foundations. Alright, so we'd unlocked this solar panel tier 1, so I had a great idea of having them on their own little platform. They must provide much better power output for sure. I headed back over to the iridium zone and started to mine everything that I could. Oh look! A new unlock! With the farmed iridium, I got to work placing a few more heaters. With the new veggie tier 2 unlocked, it was time to put it to use and up our oxygen production. I stole the only seed we had from the other one and put it in there instead. Then, over at the shipwreck near base, I set up a temp little box and a storage container ready to explore. Inside, I started to loot every crate I could until I was full, which wasn't actually a lot, to be honest. Whilst trekking back to base, I had to walk through a nasty sandstorm. Luckily, the walk wasn't too far. Whilst back, I crafted a tier 3 backpack now. With the new seeds also out that I found, I opted for 2 more veggie tubes and changed the old seed as the new ones were 200% more effective. A huge boost to oxygen. Just look at the numbers going up. Riveting. We were getting into the big boy drills now. I placed a couple of tier 2 drills but soon knocked out the power once more. I sped off, got myself the resources and got a few new solar panels down to fix it. I had made my way back over to the shipwreck once again. I made my way through breaking stuff down and looting, then offloading into my mini base. The looting continued and I found what looked like some chips to be decrypted. I filled up on what I thought was rare and made for home once again. Let's get a quick ladder in. I had enough materials for a tier 2 heater. Beautiful. Whilst out farming once more, we unlocked a bunch of new blueprints, including a communications antenna and a transmission screen. Amongst some of the things I unlocked, I've been able to craft an agility boost and a tier 3 oxygen tank. Things were truly getting spicy. Whilst I was out and about, doing a little bit more work and building some stuff, the planet started to shake all around me. I'd found myself stood outside in some kind of meteor shower raining down on my head. I got scared, so I ran inside and made myself a little window to watch. As scary as it all was, it was quite beautiful to see. After shaking myself off, I continued working in the base, rearranging my screens. I also got in the terraformation screen. This was handy at telling me how I was progressing. With new tech comes more power. The base expansions continued and I built an extra floor. This place was starting to make me feel pretty hopeful. With a second story built, I rehoused the heaters and placed them up top and out of the way. I then rearranged the storage area to make it more accessible. Well, would you look at that? A food grower blueprint. I built one and planted the eggplant, my very own sustainability. After continuing my expansion, I hit a power shortage. Time to try out those tier 2 solar panels. I started to squeeze in more heaters and made a box to store my farmed iridium. Look at that, ship wreckage in the distance. Let's head on over there. On the way, a new blueprint. Once there, I built a shit shack again and a big locker this time. Then off into the big ship I went. I deconstructed and looted my way through until... What the hell was that thing? A computer also had an unopened message on it from some others that had attempted to land on this planet, but a storm was raging at the time. Confused, but with a full backpack, I got out of there and made for home. On the march back to base camp, I was watching in terrible awe as the meteors come raining down once again. It truly was a place like no other so far. At base, I found myself once again rearranging the storage and making the big boy lockers. The space was so much better. I even named them all and organised some more. What better time than in the middle of a meteor shower to get an antenna up, right? I was desperately trying to place the transmission screen too. They call me Shaky Jake. The very first message received was in relation to me and why I was here. Exiled and sentenced to either transform the planet or death, whichever comes first. Amongst all the drama, I had in fact unlocked the tier 3 drill. This was a big boy. Let's get another. Oh look, tier 3 veg tubes too. I seeded them up for more oxygen production. I kept on top of power needs when required. Then more tier 3 veggie tubes. We received a new message and it was talking about how the planet is a possible candidate for future colonization. Just walking around, it was apparent how close we were to achieving blue skies. Anyway, let's expand and try some of these new funky pieces. I rearranged the veggie tubes into the new section. Then finalised and had a good look at what we had done. And there it was, the advanced crafting station, and the goal of a beautiful blue sky was achieved. Alright, so I racked up a good amount of stuff and was able to craft the advanced workstation. Once placed, I took a good look through what could be crafted. Rocket engines, rods, bigger tanks and bigger backpacks. I also had an unlocked super alloy. It had really ramped up, so I grabbed my iridium and managed to make 2 rods out of it. Whilst doing it, we had unlocked a blueprint for a nuclear reactor too. It was time to put it to good use and make our first tier 3 heater. I trekked all the way back over to the wreckage pop-up base and decided to take a little look around the abandoned ship on the outside. Then, this golden crate caught my eye. It had some rarities inside which we had yet to see, so I grabbed them quicker than you can stand up. A golden seed and a golden effigy. Ooh, a cave blocked by ice. Back at base, I went and crafted a tier 4 backpack. And took a brief look at our progress. With progression in mind, the perfect next step was a thing called a grass spreader. Yes, this does exactly what it says on the tin. I swapped to the golden seed in the oxygen tube. And got another grass spreader down. Whilst looking at our board, we needed to consider more heat and pressure. A launch platform? Alrighty, time for some juicy big drills and some rearrangement. The time had come to rearrange my computers and screen into the main base. Not sure about this, but I'll place them there now, anyway. And goodbye mini base. I started to really focus on a new section of the base and get a full expansion down. I then looked at a building. I started to really focus on a new section of the base and got a full expansion down. I knew I wasn't sure on that screen placement yet. What is a desk without a lovely chair, eh? Amongst all the distraction, I progressed and could see beautiful clouds. Oh crap, I was out travelling when a meteor storm brewed up and started slamming rocks near my face. What better time than now for Windows? After a heavy resource mining session, I had unlocked an ore extractor. Well, I wonder. And what appeared to be some kind of water collector. This thing was important for our self-sustainability. But look! I frantically got to work and the power was restored. Whilst boltering the power reserves, a message came through on the terminal. Turns out, it was a friend called Riley who had managed to locate where they had sent me to. She gave me some advice on how to get started, but honestly, we'd already achieved a fair bit without any help. The sentiment was there though. Cheers, Riley. I got straight back to work and placed 3 new tier 3 heaters. Look at our terraformation index. And this damn water collector. Amazing. I had realised that I could in fact craft my own superalloy with various other materials. I got a few crafted and ready. I then used them to get a tier 5 oxygen tank. We were so hard at work I forgot that we had hit the rain terraformation stage. With a storm raging outside, I took a breath and checked out my numbers to see what was happening. Alright, remember when we spotted that bit of ice blocking a cave entrance? Well, it had melted enough to squeeze through. Inside there were some new materials we hadn't seen yet. Osmium and sulfur. I farmed what I could. So, at every wreckage I had the tactic of slowly looting and then bringing the materials home in passing. It was a really good passive way of getting resources. I was busy sorting so much inventory that when I stepped outside, I was so shocked to see actual rain. Does this mean we're actually doing it? Either way, this was amazing. Anyway, the exploring continued to the east side of our base and I found what appeared to be an aluminium farming zone. Set up a tent base ready to farm. On the way back home, I stumbled on another one of those golden chest things. I took everything and deconstructed it once more. Lucky find. Before heading back, I realised I had enough material for the ore drill, so I placed one down to see what happens in this zone. Yes! My hunch was right and this farms aluminium. Whilst delving further into this zone, I stumbled on what appeared to be another small wreckage. After messing about, I figured out a way in through the top. Each one had some pretty good loot, so I grabbed what I could and headed on out. On the way home, we unlocked something called a biolab. The time has come. The absolute mammoth thing that is the landing platform. I found a lovely little place for it and soon knocked all of the power grid out. Damn, this thing was hungry. To the solar panels, quick! Alright, power restored. We climbed the launch platform to have a look. There were two types of rockets to launch. One multiplied heat by 1000% and the other pressure. This could boost us immensely. I quickly ran back over to the aluminium farm area and loaded up with lots of rare items too. I took a quick glance at the screens to see what was going on, then whipped up a bit more storage. After that, I headed out northeast to explore a little more when I saw a completely new wreckage lodged in the rocky area. I built a quick, crafty little base and stepped inside ready. It was time to check out the wreckage I'd spotted, so off I went. Through the wreckage there were plenty of lootable crates and even some small ones containing some chips to analyse. After 2 trips inside, I was able to clear out pretty much all of the loot. I grabbed what I thought were the most rare and headed back home. Once again I eagerly scanned the chips and found a tier 3 mining speed module and a recycler blueprint. Not bad. I had to continually keep up with mini expansions at the base and progress a little at a time. And you know what? This one I was really proud of. A nuclear reactor. Who would have thought? And yes, science is beautiful. To keep up the pace, I placed down a huge building called a biodome. Sounds scientific. Inside, I found a computer that had a whole new dynamic to what we could achieve. There were a whole heap of biomass unlocks, plant unlocks, insects, and even animals. I can't even fathom this right now. Back at the last ship we looted, the whole area was surrounded with super alloy, so I went to town and farmed up as much as I could. Ooh, what's that? My eyes didn't deceive me. Another golden crate with some juicy loot. In the comforts of my own home, I offloaded my sack once more. I was just out farming up some more iridium when I noticed a new bit of ice had melted, opening a new zone. Turns out this place is full of sulfur. I pressed on through the thick yellow smog to see if there was anything else going on. I was told it was sometimes good to explore. It was just then when I saw something absolutely amazing, almost like a sand waterfall. I got closer and set up camp as always. And then in I went. And would you look at that, more super alloy. Whilst deep inside, I discovered an open cave that once again had this osmium stuff all inside. Resources for drills. Yay! There was a crate at the back with more blueprint chips to decode as well. After a swift jog, we went home and decoded the chips we found. They had a new screen called mapping and a shredder. Nice. Whilst messing about, a new message from Riley had come through. This time the message said I had better chance if I built at altitude. Interesting. Without getting caught, I got prepped and placed another drill in the iridium cave. Now we had an unlimited supply. Back in the office, I got the mapping screen placed. Unfortunately, it was pretty useless right now. Outside it was hammering down, and I noticed something truly special. Yes, water had started to pool in places. Just look at it. A new milestone is approaching. I continued on into what looked like some weird spikestone graveyard. Kinda like some natural wonder of this planet. I once again stumbled upon a small wreck and looted that bad boy. And once again built a temp shelter by a new opening that I spotted. Inside the opening there was a mixture of osmium, sulfur and iridium. Cool. The other end was blocked by a bunch of ice that wasn't quite melting yet. That water level was rising rapidly. At base, it was time for another nuclear reactor. Researching of the other chip unlocked a GPS rocket. It's time once again to go out and raid another crash site. As always, I chucked a quick base down. I searched the floors and looted the containers. This time though, there was a lot to take, so I made a couple of trips to grab what I could. At base, I rearranged into the correct storage containers. Yes, that's a jetpack. We must get it. Oh yes, you beauty. Right, let's have a quick look at these rockets, shall we? Materials in hand, I built a heat multiplier rocket and sent that baby into space. It may as well be known as Elon at this point. ran inside to check the change on the screen. We waited for the rain to stop and patiently watched as the meteor shower we triggered started to rain down. At the crash site, a bunch of uranium was inside. Some even crashed into our mini lake that had formed too. After running around farming, it was time to build a biolab. Inside there was another computer with a whole bunch of interesting things that I could be crafting, from fertilizers to mutagen and bacteria samples. My big science experiment continues. A third reactor, you say? Now that some little puddles were forming, we were able to get algae generator put in. Breathe, planet, breathe! Holy crap, this lake was filling up fast now. And yes, the jetpack is awesome. Decoding the microchips revealed a tier 4 mining chip and a tier 2 jetpack. I crafted the jetpack instantly. I spent a fair bit of time just following rocks around until I stumbled upon another random entrance. It was a little hazy inside, but I soon realised the floor was filled with more super alloy. What is this little area? I carried on through and appeared to come up to some huge door of some kind. There was no way to open it though that I know of. I tried my luck with a drill to see if I could farm any super alloy or something, but no luck unfortunately. At home I decoded another chip to unveil a GPS rocket tier 2. With the feeling of adventure still fresh in my head, I made it through the aluminium field to some kind of spacecraft semicircle sticking out of the ground. This needs to be checked out. I made a tent base and got straight to work. After climbing through the wreckage, I finally got to the end that had a computer and a message. The message was about some spacewalk gate and how it all broke down when they turned the power on. Just to the right, the reactor in question was sitting there. Back at the tent base, this was the loot I had, and I managed to grab from inside. Pretty hefty haul if you ask me. After a quick once-over around the ship, I headed back home. I decoded the chips that I found and got a map, a display case, and a GPS rocket tier 3. Nice. Only one thing to do during this storm. Let's display my little trophies I found from the golden crates. Up on the rocket platform, I gathered and sent out 2 new pressure multiplier rockets to try and get this thing going like crazy. Now, when building another rocket on the other, we made it go a little wild. I won't lie to you, I was a little concerned I was going to go and meet my maker. Turns out, they're like Nerf rockets. A little bit of time had passed and I was pondering on my next moves to boost everything. I took to the lake and got some algae generators in. We will need a fair bit later anyway. Then I knocked up some explosive powder and a tier 2 nuclear reactor. Back out in the wild, I noticed a small ladder sticking up out of the ground. Inside there was a little bit of loot and a message about a crash that occurred. They complained the land was too hostile. I wonder what happened. I moved to bolster the power supply with more nuclear. The planet had some really beautiful natural streams appearing, starting to feel really livable every day that passes. A flower spreader? So just over at the weird semicircle crash site, I headed a little further into what appears like a bit of a crater in the ground. It wasn't long before I stumbled across another cave entrance a little further in. Once again it was filled with osmium and more block ice. There was another crash site a little further along with a couple of crates to loot as well. There wasn't much else to see, so I headed back home. Once back, I decoded the chips to discover a jetpack tier 3 and an interior wall. With the flower spreader unlocked, it was time to get our first one placed. We grabbed one of the seeds and chucked it inside, which boosted oxygen a fair bit. A little expansion to the base. Looks kinda nice. It was time to focus up and get a bunch more grass spreaders in. The oxygen boost was slowly but surely getting better. Alright, another pressure rocket, but this time just the one. I really like to watch them shoot into space. With the lake filling up rapid, I chucked in some more algae generators. And some more food growers. Back out again, I stumbled upon a crashed satellite that had a bit of loot. Oh look! A tier 2 algae generator. Let's drill some more. Back at the other cave from earlier, the ice had melted and opened a new area. After a brief search, I stumbled upon what looks like a small landing zone. I built my own living compartment and searched around. There was a ladder, so I climbed inside. Whoever was here before me appears to have gone crackers, as all of the notes said the same thing. Welcome to your assigned planet. Time to go home, I think. Back at the semicircle, I decided to swing a right instead and explore that way. There was a cave, but it was completely frozen shut still. Take a mental note for later. Then another ladder in the ground. There was a message inside about someone who had survived 6 months, but they were saying the planet is cursed? What does everyone mean? I looted up and got out of there. Back at base, I crafted a tier 2 algae generator. The lake was filling close to base now. Whilst in and taking a look at the screens, I noticed the next stage to reach was moss. No way! On the messaging terminal, there was a message from another convict that had been sent to the planet to terraform. However, they wished they had chosen death. The other was from Riley again, but the encryption was messed up. Strange messages or not, I got back to work expanding the biolab area to create a food production room and added in a bunch more. And a locker just for food. Keeping to the theme, I also chucked in an algae locker. Storms and flower spreaders, what a time to be alive. Once the storm had passed, it was time for a couple more rockets to be launched. The first was a GPS tier 1 rocket, and the second was a pressure multiplier. The rockets got all weird on me again. It was so stupid, honestly. During a raging storm, I was trying to place an extended room on the base. Finally, I found a spot. Then a few supporting foundations. Inside, I placed a lovely window, a bed, and some sofas. And finally, a table. With some time passing, the algae had some time to grow, and I was finally able to harvest a bunch of it. Whilst out singing in the rain, I launched a tier 2 GPS rocket and watched that baby take off like a baby on a seesaw. After launching the GPS rockets, the map information screen showed this right here. I could see my base from the sky. Pretty cool. Whilst out collecting resources, I came back and noticed moss. It started to form everywhere. In a bid to speed up terraformation, I placed 2 more algae generators and ended up knocking out the power again. I scrambled some material together and got a nuclear generator placed. After that, I spent a fair bit of time hauling resources from my mini bases dotted around. And whilst out doing so, the tier 4 drill unlocked. This thing looked like a beast. Let's get some more solar panels in too, because why not, eh? Then a bunch more on the roofs. With more power flowing, we had enough for the Big Daddy drill. Just look at this thing. Alright, more growers. The biolab was also going to be where I stored sulfur. A few bacteria samples required for the tier 2 biodome. And there we were. All the ingredients and ready for this thing. I needed just the right spot for it and settled by the lake as it seemed fitting. After fitting the door, I hopped inside to see the beauty that was within. This thing also produced tree bark? I wonder what that's for. Up next, I placed a lake water collector to speed up water production. The need for sustainable power was forever increasing. By this point, I was quite refreshing just going out farming because there was some nice colours really starting to flourish. Earlier on, I had unlocked the ability to launch something called a plants rocket. This thing increased biomass immensely and also looked quite beautiful. Get out there and spread my seed. By now, we were 82% complete on the moss stage and numbers were ticking up nicely. A tier 2 flower spreader? Okay. It had become pretty apparent that a great way of boosting the terraformation was through rockets, so I launched a few more. To sustain my life choices, I had to get a hold of much more super alloy. Back at home, I unlocked and placed a biomass screen that covered the growth of plants, insects, and even the animals. Didn't even know this was going to be a thing. And there it is, the next piece to my puzzle, Flora. Let's further expand the biolab. I put in a lot of effort sorting the food situation, as a bunch will be needed for crafting. Is that what I think it is? A gas extractor? Whilst out on my way and back to base, I stumbled across another golden crate tucked away in the aluminium field. A nice find. Oh look, 2 penis trophies now. A quick glance at the board shows us nearly 10% towards Flora now. Our power once again needed a good scaling. Let's keep that pressure on. And the oxygen pumping. Oh baby, it's about to get hot in here. A new Jenny. And then our first big boy heater. Quick check-in puts us at 23%. I can't believe it's me building these. Just look at them. I think I just spotted my first blade of wild grass. So once again, we had come to a point where I wanted to discover more about this planet. I headed off into a new section and got a mini base placed. This time I'd stumbled upon another weird looking wreckage. Inside it was like a crashed cargo bay of some kind with a fair few crates to pick clean. They look like guns? Now, instead of going home, I veered the other way and ended up on top of some weird sand waterfall. Off to the right, there seemed to be a little bit of an opening, and oh my god, this place was gorgeous. After a quick look, I took a mental note of the location and headed back with a bag full of goodies. Back at home, I unloaded and tended to my crops. Look how much food I've got now. My exploring didn't stop at that point, and I stumbled across what appeared to be a uranium cave. This could provide extremely useful later on for sure. I went inside and farmed every piece. Then I placed a beacon and set the colour to green to help me find it easier. The checking puts us at 55% complete towards Flora now. On the other screen, plants are moving slowly but surely. It was once again time to shoot some rocket boys into space. Or so you'd think. It was so daft that when you stack the rockets, they just shoot off randomly. It's great fun at least, I suppose. With enough power reserves in the bank, it was time to get in some tier 2 flower spreaders. It's a good job I don't have hay fever. So I went ahead and got one of these machine optimizer things in to boost the machines by 250%. Surely this gets me there quicker, right? Alright, game aside, I'd really love it if you could hit that subscribe button, as I spent more hours than you know making this video. And if you made it this far, let it be known down in the comments, you absolute legend. For a little while, it was a case of just placing whatever we could to improve, because sometimes life's all about hard work. Wait a minute. What the hell is this? Zeolite? Something grown in them rocks? With some zeolite collected, I was able to get a gas extractor placed, which then led to nitrogen. By now, everywhere we travelled unveiled a brand new landscape, and it was quite beautiful to see. Alright, remember that cool looking cave we found? Well, we were outside once again and building a temp shelter. Inside, the place was beautiful. I looted what I could see and moved on. Out on the other side, there was this weird sandstorm pit thing. I can't explain it. Not something I plan on walking into at all. After searching and looting, I veered off into another direction, and turns out it's fully connected into the Osmium cave we already knew about. With the ice all melted, traversing around is going to be much easier. Packing some serious loot, I headed home to try and work on some more improvements. At base, I prepped some methane storage. At this point, I was part of a beautiful but deadly storm that was raining down literal rainbows. Turns out this storm is dropping super alloys all around us. That's a huge win, providing I don't die. Back on the rocket podium once more, I spent some time launching them up into space. Only this time, I waited for each one to shoot so I could watch them properly. There was also a new message from Riley that contained some specific coordinates that we needed to go check out. Grafting once more, I shot up a seed spreader rocket that would make the oxygen creation go crazy. There you go, the screen shows it flying up. Once again, I found myself one of those beautiful golden crates hidden behind a rock. I looted and went about my day. I decided to head on over to where the coordinates were and stumbled across a whole new biome that was looking like something unseen before. It was then that I spotted a new material called pulsar quartz. I got a temporary base built, and just before that we unlocked a tier 2 drill blueprint. 1 gig of terraformation now. For a little while after, I went around my base picking up all of the super alloy that crashed down, as it was everywhere. The resource was needed for a lot as well. Back over in that new area, I decided to set a purple beacon to know where it was, and then moved on to find what these coordinates had. And would you look at that, I think we found it. Some weird underground mushroom field place? It dawned on me that this area was huge, and honestly, it kind of freaked me out a little. It reminded me of the underground Subnautica river, you know? By this point, a fair bit of time had passed and we had unlocked a few things, one of them being this DNA manipulator. With this, you could use various ingredients and make tree seeds. As you can see, the land had started to form with even more water, and there was even some natural trees that had started to grow in the distance. The tier 2 drill had been in quite some time, and we managed to see a fair bit of super alloy automatically being mined. I spent literal days just going around and collecting resources from all the setups just so I could prepare for the next stage. When we were back at base, the tree spreader and the seeds we created had started to sprout trees up around it. Weird looking but beautiful all the same. This led to insane power needs, more nuclear. There was a new thing I had unlocked called an auto crafter. I placed it and took a good look at what it could do. Turns out this thing can literally craft anything as long as the resources are reachable nearby. Game changer. Then out of nowhere, everything turned luminous blue. I went outside to see, and I think it was raining down osmium from the meteors. Lucky looter perk achieved. Back over at the DNA manipulator, I created a new tree, and it was called Lympholia. After that, I went over to the autocrafter and watched as it started making me super alloy rods without any interaction. Coffee, anyone? At a quick glance, I could see we were now 12% towards insects and growing quickly. I decided to head on over and get stuck into this underground mushroom cavern bit and see what's up. I placed a Warden's key in a podium, and this whole tomb thing opened up for us. Inside, there were tablets inscribed with messages. From the descriptions, it's as if there was some human-like race living here before, or so the text makes out anyway. Whatever these things were, they were definitely not the humans we think we know. They seem petrified of us. Really? There was one more passage in this area, and upon walking out, it opened up to some kind of podium. From that podium, it appears as though some kind of ship is just there, floating in nothingness. With nothing more to see, I took a U-turn and got the hell out of there before something weird happened. I continued through the mushroom field, but there wasn't much else to see. I did find this exit in the complete opposite side, and through there was the most gorgeous sight I had yet seen. Is that a waterfall? Damn. As I got closer, it was apparent that this place was just phenomenal. Now, everyone knows that waterfalls need to be checked for caves underneath. And there you go. Now, inside this place literally looked like a space graveyard. Kind of freaky. There was also a half-buried message terminal that said something about a space cruise that had gone horribly wrong. and they ended up crashing down here on the planet. Nothing else remained. Out of the waterfall, the flora was quite beautiful around here, with trees as colourful as the rainbow. Further on from the waterfall, there was a left and a right. The right looked gorgeous with some wreckage, and the left was like going straight into hell. Hot lava was pouring from above with no rhyme or reason, and it felt like I'd just stumbled into purgatory. I came back out and got a temporary shelter up nearby to rest. Back to the heavenly way, I carried on towards the wreckage in the distance to see what I could find. While searching through the wreckage, I unlocked a blueprint for a beehive? This is amazing. The wreckage had a lot of loot, but I was happy to call it a day and move on with my full inventory. At the back of the waterfall, I noticed a zigzag trail leading up the cliff that was littered with super alloy. After a long climb, I hit the top, and damn, it was scarily high. To the left, there was a small flow of water and what appeared to be another damn gold chest glowing in the distance. I tried to take what I could from it, but my bag was chock-a-block. We'd have to come back for the rest. Back at base, I decompiled 2 chips, a tier 4 GPS rocket, and a flare. Oh, I forgot to show you my new gadget. It outlines how quick my oxygen depletes. Alright, quick check-in puts it 20% towards insects. I jumped up, got some ingredients, and got to work on the next GPS rocket. 2 more wobbly rockets, did you say? Man, I could stand here for hours just shooting these stupid things all around. It was so hazy that I thought Snoop Dogg had landed. Now the haze had cleared, I took note of the figures and set off to send even more rockets up. One after the other, I built them and sent them up, only for them to just sit there on the podium, scaring the crap out of me. Elon has some more scientific work to do to get us off this rock. That's enough fun for one day. Back to work and looting, I went over by the waterfall once more. A ton of loot in hand, I set off back home once again. At home, I placed down my very first nuclear fusion generator from the quartz. This thing was mega money. With the new pressure multiplier thing I found, I got this booster thing placed to then send the drills off the charts. I capitalized on it and got the 5th drill plate. Glorious numbers, go up! It's that time. More tree spreaders. The annoying thing about them though was that the tree seed needed to be created every time. I'd almost forgot that we sent up the other GPS rocket. Look at how everything is coming together on the big screen. Just beautiful. It's silly rocket time. Oh man, they just scoot along like toys. Over and over. Back from a mega loot run, I unlocked a drone visualization rocket. No idea what the hell the drones are for. This one seems like a cool unlock. An incubator. Up next, a butterfly dome. It took me a while, but I decided to attach it to the tree bark dome. Now I just had to figure out how to get butterflies. In the meantime, I got this oxygen multiplier machine over by the mini trees far to push the oxygen levels a bit. It did feel like not much was going on, but on checking, we're at 55% towards the insects. I was out again near the waterfall area and I stumbled on some weird looking crater with lava in the middle. A quick house placed, I was ready to dive. Halfway into climbing, there was a random ladder leading underground. Look, another golden statue and a shed ton of loot that I couldn't carry. The terminal had a message written from the person named Ichlas. The specific part to note was where they state that the more time they spent on the planet, the more it makes them want to stay. I kinda get it. I quite like it here too. After getting out and catching my breath, I took a dive to see if there was anything underwater. Yep, another ladder. Let's climb in. The major thing to note inside was a message that mentions a base at some other coordinates. I wonder what's over there. Nearby there was also another crater that was frozen solid. I wonder what's in there as well. At home I crafted and placed the incubator. Turns out this is what you need to start making bugs. Instantly I started looking for types of larvae on the planet and found a few for incubation. I placed in some ingredients and began a DNA sequencing thing to see what we could create. On completion, I got a butterfly penga larva. I ran straight over to my butterfly dome and put the larva inside. Turns around and there they were. A truly stunning piece of work by me. Look at that. I managed to make a bee larva. It was that time. Beehive, baby. Now we truly are creating something incredible, as honeybees are the key to everything. I had stumbled upon a plant's multiplier fuse, so I placed it near the beehive. Then got another beehive placed, and a brief gander at the screen shows us at 92% towards insects. For a while I went around farming and making insect larvas. I need to push harder. And there you have it. The push for breathable atmosphere is upon us. But not quite. It was time to place some storage for all the larvae I was collecting. A third beehive. And then as always, the nasty corp that sent me here to suffer my fate was always one step behind on actually giving me any usable advice. Cheers, dudes. Alright, sticky weird rocket time. Then I continued my growing, farming and collecting runabouts. A never-ending cycle of life. The glorious bees had started to now produce me honey. I'm buzzing. Look at that, the tree has grown and it pushed the rocks open. I went through and cleared up all the existing loot spots we couldn't carry from before and got them back home. There were so many. I also scooted over the Howl landscape to see what was out there. This place was filled with obsidian, a resource we were yet to craft with, and you know what? It was pretty in a weird way. There was also a large shipwreck here, but despite its large size, it didn't have too much inside. I got back home with what I deemed the rare loot and offloaded into storage. I also continued collecting lava from outside. Then a bit more farming. And another quick glance at numbers. 13%, baby. Do you guys remember the door in the alloy cave? Well, let's head over again. I'd already come over once and noticed that it had another one of those weird keyholes in it. I brought one of the Warden's keys we found and slotted it in. The big doors began to open before my eyes. After running down a bunch of steps, we hit some old ruins. Inside, there was another one of the Warden's keys just floating there on a podium. After taking the Warden's key, a huge storm was shaking the outside. Not sure if it was because of me, but damn, look at this place. It's like some kind of weird lost kingdom down here. I searched through the buildings to find another glowing gold crate sitting there packed full of loot. Followed by a new scribe tablet that was talking about some great migration generations ago. They're saying they don't want to meet us. Again? Do they mean humans? In the other building, after a short climb, it appeared to have some kind of star thing just floating there. I have no idea what this means. Is it a weapon? Just then, I found another tablet that explains what this thing is. An orbital drainage defense device. Was this thing bringing down all the ships we've been looting? That explains the malfunction from the previous crash. I also found a third Warden's key. With a sack of loot and not much else going on, I headed back to base. Once back, I took a quick look to see where we were, and 18%. I continued the expansion with yet another beehive, then a little storage unit for the honey we were harvesting. Then manipulated some tree seeds, and chucked in a bunch of heaters. We still hadn't launched a map information rocket, so I got on that to see what secrets it could hold. Then blasted off a few other daft rockets and stared in enjoyment as they danced away. I continued developing the atmosphere by getting more trees spread out, and then stopped to take a look at how the plants and bugs were growing. I also came up with a nice idea to boost power whenever I had spare materials. Just chuck farms in everywhere. And why not the same thing with the drills? Every little helps. I thought it'd look really cool if I also went out and spammed a bunch of wind turbines up on a large rock. Surely they're more effective up here, right? Everywhere I went, I dedicated it to spamming in a lovely bunch of wind turbines. Who doesn't love a bit of windy? Oh, before I forget, do you remember that location rocket thingy we shot up? Well, this thing actually highlighted all of the caves and what each cave can be mined for. We kind of figured out most, but pretty cool either way. I was getting bored, so I decided to do only one thing I could do around here. Shoot stupid rockets and try and guess where they would go. Tickles me every time. Look at that! 39%. The time had come for the big boys. Tier 2 tree spreaders, baby. After those were placed, we were well on our way. More beehives. Time to boost the tree spreader by 250% also. Mega money. The way the landscape changed in this game is truly awesome. Look at that tree. I made my way over to hell to farm a bit of obsidian. At home, I decided to craft and build a trade station thing. I have no words. Inside there are a bunch of items I was yet to see, like cocoa seeds, wheat seeds, random blueprints, and a list of stuff I could sell out to them. Am I reading that right? A damn teleporter? Holy! After some brief excitement, back to work. I also launched a drone visualization rocket for no reason. I don't even have drones. 77% of the way there. Is every unlock going to always get me so excited? Outdoor farms? After scrambling about for a bit, I managed to get all of the ingredients to get one of these outdoor farms placed. I'm really so close to self-sustainable ecosystem that was built by my own hands. Beans! Glorious beans! The time had come. The glorious breathable air is upon me, and I achieved this. Me. This was an incredible journey. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please do me the honours and let me know your thoughts and what you think of this beautiful game. Take it easy, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one.